Greetings, everyone. My name is Mark Rosenbaum, and I'm an associate editor at the Journal of Services Marketing. I, along with my two colleagues, Mario Geraldo from the University of Norte and Tali Sager-Gutman from the Rupin Academic Center in Israel, are pleased to announce a special issue of Journal of Services Marketing dedicated to understanding how vulnerable customers handle service situations and succeed in service settings. Now, what do I mean by vulnerable customers in service settings? Our literature has a plethora of frameworks and theories that have an assumption that they apply across the board to all consumers. Now, clearly we know from cross-cultural research that our theories may have cultural limitations, but what about limitations that apply to customer segments? This is what I mean by vulnerable customers. Let me give you an example. We have consumer segments such as the handicapped. Well, how do the handicapped successfully manage service settings? Do they worry about service quality in the same way that non-handicapped consumers do? What about older age consumers or the lonely? Do they have the same issues, the same goals, the same objectives to satisfy their needs like those who aren't in their situation? What about same-sex households? How do they choose medical providers? How do they choose insurance providers? How do they choose what information to disclose or not to disclose? How do they develop relations with service providers when part of their identity is often held back and not disclosed to others? I was talking to one of my colleagues, Mario, from the University of Norte, about the role of loan sharks in Colombia. Now, the term loan sharks would be negative. I mean, the very connotation of the loan shark, we see someone negative taking advantage of consumers and charging high interest rates. But in Colombia, loan sharks provide the poor with instantaneous loans that are delivered without assuming literacy. What I mean is that banks in Colombia typically take a long time to fill out. They take a long time to process the paperwork, with the assumption that the customers can even fill out the paperwork. But what Mario was explaining to me is that in Colombia, the loan sharks often extend short-term loans without any required paperwork other than a handshake. Because, let's face it, we know what the loan shark's going to do if the person doesn't pay back the loan. Now, we may say this is awful and it's horrible, but it's really not. We see that our traditional service frameworks may not apply among the poor in Colombia. When I was talking to my other colleague, Tali, about service providers in Israel, well, she said service quality in Israel is also judged by how well the service provider checks the door in case a terrorist enters, or how well the service providers actually check the surrounding areas for any potential bombs. Well, here we have a new way to evaluate service quality when safety is no longer taken for granted. So in this situation, what about the other 5 aspects of service quality? Do you really worry about reliability, tangibles, and empathy when you're worried about your personal safety? This special issue challenges our theories, our frameworks. It challenges our theories and frameworks by looking at consumers who may have a very different aspect of judging service quality, a different aspect of customer satisfaction, a different aspect of customer loyalty. We want to look how vulnerable customers who are not routinely explored in marketing, such as minorities, lower income, disabled, same-sex households, how do they successfully deal with this service environment? How do they actually manage in service settings? We really don't know. My colleagues and I encourage all authors to be creative here. Engage in research almost in the Chicago School of Sociology. Let's immerse ourselves back in service settings. Let's see when service frameworks and theories change in context, change for different customer segments. Let's find how customers who are not typically studied in marketing in a typical classroom or in a typical theoretical study, let's explore these customers. And let's understand how the marginalized, the stigmatized, the vulnerable. Let's understand how all consumers deal with services. I encourage everyone who applies, who submits to our special issue, let's be creative. Let's be creative and let's think differently. Let's think about customer segments that are vulnerable, stigmatized, marginalized. We look forward to your submissions, and if you have any questions, please feel free to contact myself or my colleagues. My email is mrosenbaum@niu.edu. Thanks a lot. Take care.